What else can you remember?
Oh,
How much?
a lot of things keep popping in and out of there.
How active were you at Adobe? Most of your stuff was, were you,
I never did anything as far as the board or anything in Adobe.
okay, that's why I'm trying to not get too much into Adobe, because I kept thinking most of your thing was down there. I gotta ask this has gotta go on tape. There is a small saddle tank engine, 040, that says Ellis Chemicals on the side. And I would like to hear the official rendering of that. Never know.
Hayne called me one weekend.
Hayne Ellis.
Yeah. He said, Roger, I just bought an engine in Fresno, California. You know anybody go get it for me? Knowing damn good and well I went. I said, sure. I said, I'll go. You pay for gas and expenses. That's not a problem. I'll just give you a credit card. And that's when you can do that. I don't think you can do that anymore. But, so, Jim Kuntz had just bought a brand new Chevy pickup. So I called Jim. I said, hey, I said, I'm going to go to Fresno to pick up an engine. You want to take your truck over there? Yeah, he says, I'd like to get out on the road, see how it feels. So we drove to Fresno and picked up that locomotive. And on the way back, we stopped at Railroad Supply. I picked up a flat car, kit, and a set of trucks for Hayne. He'd ordered them, and we picked them up. Then we came on home. The engine needed some work on it. So when I got home, I told Hayne, I said, I got the engine here at the house. I said, it'll be a week or two before I get it out to the club. He said, I'm going to come over and see it. I said, okay. So he came over and looked at it, and he just fell in love with it. And so I said, well, I said, it needs work on it. I says, if you pay for it, I said, I'll be glad to do it. I won't charge you for it. He says, that's fine. And he said, he says, I owe you for your trip. I says, for what? Well, for your expenses. I said, well, your card paid for the motels and for the gasoline. You don't owe us for anything else. Well, you had to eat. I said, hey, I wouldn't have to eat no matter where I was. I said, you don't owe me that. Well, how much should I write the check for? I said, I gave him the cost for the motel. No, for whatever it was, I knew how much it was. And I said, that's what you owe me. He always said, I owe you more than that. I said, no, you don't. He said, damn it, he wrote a check out, blank check. He said, you put in the money, whatever you want. I don't care how much you want. I said, fine, I can write this amount of money and put it as well as you can. He got all frustrated and stormed out of the house. Everybody else tried to take care of his money, or take advantage of it.
Oh yeah.
And we would never do that. We got to be very close friends.
But the actual owner of the engine is
Babe,
your wife.
when we took the K-27 back to Colorado, what was the name of the town we went to? Not Windsor. I'll think of it here sometime after the meeting. And we were unloading it, and Babe says she would like to have the engine in her name. I said, okay.
Oh,
So I told Hayne we wanted a receipt for the engine written in her name. So he says, okay. And he wrote a real nice receipt, filled out, and everything on there was all donated to Babe. And that's her engine. I got to run it and work on it, but that was her engine. It still is.
now, as a piece of trivia to that thing. Somewhere, I know I've taken the picture. I thought I sent it into live steam. They probably published it. I don't remember how long ago it was. We had, you're gonna have to help me out on the engines. I know we had the 040, and I took a picture of all three, and John, your engine was what? The DRGW?
Yeah, 263.
What wheel arrangement was that?
Consolidation.
It was a
Narrow
consolidation 280,
Narrow gauge.
narrow gauge, and then
The 060.
you were on the 060 switcher. And we've got the three of them all in a parallel shot. So we've got Babe on the inside one with the 040, we've got Roger in the middle with the 060, and then we've got John on the backside with the consolidation, the 280. So I know we've got a picture of all three of them together at one time, but I don't remember how far.
I vaguely remember that live stream.
I would have to go back and look at my photos. I found something else interesting in here. Does this sound anywhere near familiar for current days? This is back in June of '74. At our May meeting, we discussed our track situation. Russ Kean, the one who's been assembling and stuff, has run out of material. Ties for both scales were donated by Mitch, and we used all of the 1 inch, but we have a lot of the 1.5 inch. The reverse is true of rail. We have plenty of inch rail, but don't have 1.5 inch rail. Now, to make sense out of that, you have to understand that the 1 inch rail, meaning the 4 3/4 gauge track, was laid, if I remember correctly, with 5/8 culp rail. It was only 5/8 high. It was,
I never knew where that rail
Yeah.
came from.
I think that was considered culp rail. And then we were using the regular 1 inch high stuff for the 1.5 inch. So Russ was saying we got flip-flop on the ties and the rail. Discussion of ordering more, question to order 3,000 or 4,000. Board of directors have got to come up with the money, and so on down the line. They talk about Hayne Ellis's new K27 and 15 inch. Oh, here's Mike Brickley. Mike Brickley showed up in the June '74 one, referencing him. This is where I remembered me being in the middle of this. There are still a few $25 bonds on sale, and we really need to sell them for the purchase of rail. Anyone who can afford to make a 2-year $25 investment, please do so. It had to pay off in 2 years. Okay? So those are your two magic numbers that were coming into play. The $25 were what we were selling the bonds for, because we had no money to buy rail. The Treasury didn't have any money. Like I said, $30 was considered wealthy. So we were selling these bonds at $25 a pop, 2-year maturity. And that was what we used to accumulate the monies we needed to buy the rail to keep building track out at Scottsdale. The $100 was the kick-in for the 7282 that we got from Chet Peterson. That's what people were throwing in, multiples of 100, and that's the basis for the $100 initiation fee that led into that. There was one other one in here. There was a vote taken. The vote carried to raise the initiation fee from $20 to $30, and it was to take effect in 1975, and then it still had the 3 meeting requirement in there at that particular time. I think that was the only thing that's popping up. I'm just going through these old newsletters trying to pick up.
We have to scan those and publish them. We have to scan those and publish them.
Yeah, but from '74 into '75 is when I said, or 5 to 6 is when they changed the title from Candy Dancer to Stack Talk. It was in there.
Wait. Okay, rolling.
Oh, Raj, see if this sounds familiar to you. I would like to mention that our good friend Bill Dvorak will be teaching a class on boiler construction and inspection. For those of you not familiar with Bill, he's our state boiler inspector. The class will be held at Phoenix College, carry 3 credits. Cost will be $25 for the semester. Classes will be held 1 night a week. Registration ends, da-da-da-da-da.
I didn't remember him, but it was kind of a add-on to that. Originally, Arizona had no boiler laws, none whatsoever. Because in Arizona, the only people that had big power boilers were either the mines or the railroads. And the Corporation Commission decided they wanted to have a boiler inspector. And that could be a nightmare for lifesavers, a total nightmare. And some of the states, I think Michigan's one of them, they don't have a miniature boiler inspection law. Everything has to be made to the SME codes, which is a real nightmare for a lifesaver.
Yeah.
So I found out about this happening. So I thought, well, let's see what I can do. So I went and put together a whole bunch of information I had on the history of the life-saving hobby.
Wow.
And,
And you didn't have the internet to use for research.
well, I did.
Yeah, you had the library to research it from.
And I wrote to all the other clubs, asking them what they did about their boiler laws and what their states do about boiler laws and what we needed to do. And so when I got it all back, I called the boiler inspector, introduced myself to him. I said, I would like to meet with you to talk about our life scene club. I said, why don't you come out and I will kind of show you what we have. So he came out and he looked at the engines we had there and everything. And I explained it to him, that we have our own very strict rules of inspections. They have to be inspected once a year and can have no cracks or breaks in there. And they have to meet a pressure inspection of 1.5 times normal running pressure. And if you don't have an inspection, you don't run. Just that simple. And every year you have to have it renewed. So he looked at it, and I had all this information for him to take home and look at it as far as the history. And as far as I could ever find out, and even still, there has ever been a serious injury from a lifesaver as far as steam. Some of them tipped over and hurt somebody, stuff like that. But some tubes split and hot water comes through and gets you on the arm. I've had that happen. And it never had. So he went home and started going over it. Finally called me back, says, well, here's what we're going to do. He says, any hobby boiler in Arizona has to have a maximum grade area of 150 square inches and a maximum boiler diameter of, I believe it was 11 inches. And from that to everything else, you inspect it. And that's the way we got our inspection laws.
Wow. So you were involved with the
Very much so.
formation of those in
Because
Arizona.
I was afraid, he said, well, here's the ASME code, we'll just do it like that. And I would have killed us.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, the boiler inspectors were pretty cooperative with us. They were willing to work with us. It wasn't
Very much so.
It wasn't adversarial.
Oh, no, not at all.
Anything like that.
Especially when I called them and explained to them, what we were trying to do, why we wanted to do it and everything. And it was no problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
We take a break?
Sure.
Let's do so. Answers that are kind of meaningful to our time frame that we're looking at. This candid answer happens to be November of '74. MLS was part of the dedication Saturday of the Golden Spike for the 15-inch with a display of Leonard Butler's 3/4-inch Juliet, Don Bauer's 1-inch 040T, and Russ Kian's 1.5-inch Hudson. And they also now reference the 15-inch gauge of Hayne Ellis's K27. So this was back in November of '74. This one, let me make sure I didn't forget it. Yeah, it's on the next one. The 7.5-inch gauge is now complete except for the final ballast and the first 4 3/4 gauge loop needs to be tied together, and it'll be ready for the final ballast with a golden spike ceremony months later, and this was December of '74. So our first track of being able to operate on it would have been 1975 vintage, because they were still putting everything together. The club was asked to keep our kids in tow because they hadn't officially opened the park yet, and their liability insurance wasn't there. So they wanted to just keep the kids in place. And this is the one thing I think some of our current members will appreciate. This is the income statement for the year of 1974. Our total revenue was $1,207.38. Our total expenses were $1,145.15, giving the club a net income of $62.23. So that's how rich we were back in those days.
We weren't in the red.
That was the key thing.
Every once in a while, when we needed it, people would make donations.
Pardon?
When we needed it, people would make donations.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. The club is a lot like that today. All of a sudden, when you need something, it shows up, and you don't get into too much on it. They talk about the different events that go on. I found the income statement to be significant. And then on January of '75, essentially 1 month later, Board of Directors meeting Tuesday night, large agenda to cover the year 70 in the basic loops of 7 1/2 and 4 3/4 should soon be complete. Golden spike ceremony coming in the next 2 months, and dues were due, and that was from Dick Wiebold, who was the editor at the time. And we were meeting at the Valley National Bank Operations Center at the 3600 North Black Canyon, which would have been around Indian School, just below Indian School.
Mm-hmm.
And this was back in '75.
That's where we were when Fritz blew up about wanting to, not wanting to do anything with the engine, wanted to fire bombs.
There was, it's back on one of the other ones. There was something in there, a work party was scheduled. This is back in '74, maybe November. And the work party was scheduled over Don Bernard's house, because the work party was to dismantle all of his track and the turntable and the building and transport it over to Scottsdale. So back in the general area of late '74, things were starting to evolve over at Scottsdale in terms of actual completion of the facility. I want to say, I'm trying to remember who was one of the first people that used the track, and your steamer seemed to come to mind.
Probably. You don't think so?
Yeah, one of the first ones on the track over at Scottsdale.
Would have been the 040, I think.
It could have been.
Because it would have been down the ramp, back when all we had was a ramp
Mm-hmm.
to get them offloaded on the thing. Original signatures. I'm just scanning through to see if there's anything right off the top of interest that's coming to mind, and nothing is jumping out at me. It doesn't mean it won't. Basically, the steamers had what I would call a comfortable start, a traditional start. You had a bunch of people who had a common interest, in this case outdoor trains that you could ride on, steam in particular, that got together. And for those who may not pick up on the name Bill Carvin, in a place called Uptown Plaza, which is Camelback and Central, on the northeast corner. What was the name of his hobby store?
Webster's Hobby.
Webster's Hobby. Bill was a main fixture inside the store, so all the train people got to know Bill, And that's back when Camelback and Central were considered uptown, because there wasn't much civilization north of them. Okay?
Is there now?
Yeah.
When I joined the Air Force in 1958, Webster's Hobby Shop was at 7th Street and Camelback.
Yeah.
And Dave and I were driving around one day, within a couple of days of me going in, and went into Webster's, and it had a beautiful little ocean saw I fell in love with. So Dave insisted on buying that.
But we
I
had,
don't know a lot of people, so.
the club got started in that sense of the word in a traditional way. You just had a bunch of people, common interests, getting together at some level of frequency in various and sundry locations as worked out. And eventually, it was sort of one of these, well, we keep getting together, do you suppose we ought to be a club?
That's what happened.
And that's literally where what then was the Phoenix Live Steamers back in 1968 timeframe came into being and evolved from there, adding more people as time went on, changing the name over to the Maricopa Live Steamers when as Roger noted, the Phoenix location city-wise became a not viable alternative, and the East Valley locations really were still in the works when, as Roger noted, Guy said, well, how about the Railroad Park in Scottsdale? And that's where things migrated over to. I think what would be a rude awakening for most of our current members is the fact that 50 years ago, by our standards, we were dirt poor. Dirt was rich. I mean, we were scrounging for supplies, for ties, for whatever. We sold bonds, issued bonds to come up with the requisite funding to do that. And one of the things, if I can quickly find it, let me see. Yeah, in that income statement from '74, down in the financial statement down at the bottom, liabilities, the bond interest was $9.59, and we had bonds payable of $325. And it was the $325 that we were using to buy rail and stuff like that that got the club going. And we put together the track and the club piece at a time, just getting stuff going, and it just kept flowing and going and
Always
flowing.
making progress.
Yeah. And so, thanks to people like Roger here, as
I had a
a
lot of help.
founder, we had a situation where you have evolved into a railroad that, at last repute, is the world's largest 7.5-inch gauge club railroad. We are the second largest 7.5-inch gauge railroad, being surpassed only by, what's the one in the Pacific Northwest?
It's a mountain,
Train Mountain.
train mountain.
Train Mountain is the only one that's larger than we are, 7.5-inch gauge. Russ Eldridge White Creek over in southwestern Michigan was number 2, and we passed him by a little bit. He's acknowledged us as being number 2. So the club has done a lot of great things. We've made some mistakes on the way.
Always making progress.
Stubs our toe occasionally and all of that, but categorically, just from because I take the photos for the meets to try to get them in the magazines and all. I talk to a lot of our different guests and whatnot, and with a few exceptions, they love us, they love the railroad, they love coming, playing around, and just having a good time. And 50 years ago, it was all in the works, getting ready to happen, and it are.
And we made it happen.
And we made it happen.
And it's not done yet.
True. Okay, Roger, thank you again for your time.
You're welcome.
John and Babe likewise.
Another interesting story. You know, you've seen Don Bowers in the green 040, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a Little Engines 040. And Little Engines had what they call a cast firebox boiler. It was a copper casting, and the boiler and the firebox and the whole thing was all one casting. It was all the right place and everything else in it, but it's one solid casting. And which worked really pretty well. But one year, Don decided he was going to take it to Los Angeles to run it. So he started getting things to get ready to go, and he checked it, and in the bottom corner of the firebox had a seal plug in there, and it had rusted out. And he couldn't get it out, he didn't know what he was going to do. I said, well, bring it over to the house, Don, I'll fix it for you. So he did. And I got out to my shop, you seen that wooden bench I got in the shop, and I had it setting with the back end towards one end of it. I was leaning over working on it, and I had drilled that bushing out and ran a tap through there. It was pretty good. So then I got another valve for it. It was a brass valve this time. It wasn't going to corrode. And I put everything in there, and so I connected my air hose to the boiler, and then it built up pressure to check that valve. And it was, I got up to I think 100 pounds or 90 pounds, whatever, and it was holding pressure just fine. So I was in the cab doing something, I don't remember what it was, and I made a real mistake. I had left the engine in full forward motion on the reverse lever, and I was in there doing something, and I hit my hand on something. I jerked it out of the cab, I hit that throttle, it spins open, go chug 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 right off the end of my bench. Boom, straight down. And oh my God, I just crashed John's engine. I got it back up on the bench and it broken the pilot beam and broken the smokestack and broken a couple other things. Nothing major, but it only had about a week.
It was major.
Only had about a week to go to the meet. So I thought, man, what am I going to do? So I called Little Engine, talked to Mrs. Lewis. I said, this is Roger Nansen, Phoenix, Miss Lewis. I said, I've got a problem. I told her what happened. I said, now I need the part to fix it. I said, this is what I need, I told her. I said, but I haven't got time. Can you send it to me and me to send you the money? Can you please send it to me and I will send you the money for it? She said, sure, I'd be glad to. I think 2 days later I had it in the mail. And I got it all put together. Dave in the meantime had heard me quiet about it. And she said, what's going on? And I told her. And she said, well, you got to call Don. I said, I know. I said, but I'm afraid to. She's calling. So I called him up. He and his father had a gas station out there. And he said, what's going on, Roger? I said, well, I just broke your engine. He said, what happened? And I told him. And he started laughing. I don't know how he was still standing up, but he was still laughing. And he held the phone, and I said, Dad, guess what happened? Roger dropped the engine on the floor. I thought, oh my God, Don. So anyway, I got all fixed for him. He took it to L.A. and he ran it. And after that, he came up to me and said, you know what? I'm going to tell everybody, if you want engine to run good, get Roger to crash test it for you, or drop test it for you. He said, that engine's never run that well. I said, don't you get her done.
One way to get it working right. Now, piece of trivia to this. There are 3 types of geared locomotives. The Chrysler, the Climax, and the Shea. And who was the one? It was like Jim Coombs was going to build one of them. He was the Heisler. And Don Bauer was going to build one. And there was a third person. There were 3 people in the club that decided they were each going to build one of the different geared locomotives. just to have it. Never happened,
But it would've been cool.
but yeah, it was interesting.
Point of interest, there's another Beard engine called a Willamette.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's the twin division.
It looks very much like the Shay, but it's all got piston valves in the cylinder.
Okay.
Well, there were not a lot of them built, there was a couple of them left in existence. I think one of them was running in Virginia, West Virginia. At the,
Cassini?
but it was interesting.
Thank you for your time, and the two of you for being part of this as well. Keeping us straight on our anecdotes.
Some of them.
And then local road that we have. Last time I ran it was at the park, and I was doing something, I had a leak in the water glass, and trying to get it to seal up. And the glass split right down the middle, and I had over 100 pounds in the boiler, and it came up, and it literally boiled the back of my hand. I mean, all of that hurt something fierce. It took it 3 or 4 months to heal. I never did get it fixed after that. Well, that was the last time it had run on that weekend.
Well. Anyway.
Anyway, this has been fun.
Thank you.
I like the memories.